All right, everyone out there checking out the Keeping It Real with Sally G podcast. I have my dear friend, Dr. Dave Burrows. I always call him Dr. Dave. Dave, thanks for coming on and being a part of Keeping It Real with Sally G.
It's nice to be here.
So, Dave, you've had quite a colorful life, a lot of different things that have gone on. I'd like to start off with your childhood. Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
I come from a relatively poor family, lived in Tucson almost all my life. I came here when I was 2 months old.
So what year, what it was the 50s, 60s, what years was that?
Okay, so I arrived in Tucson in February of 1956.
So you've seen a lot of changes in this town.
Tucson has changed tremendously since I've been here.
Okay, so did you grow up being a believer in Jesus, or how was your childhood and your walk with the Lord?
So my mom always tries, I'm one of three boys, I'm the middle of three boys. My mom always tried to take us to the Church of Christ on Sundays, basically, and so we didn't really go to church like every single day or at the church all the time, but we tried to at least make it on Sundays with my mom.
And did that create an impression on you, or are you just doing that to keep mom happy?
Yeah, I think we just did it because we had to go. And it was something where we knew about God, but we didn't really know God personally and everything.
So growing up late 50s in Tucson, going to church to keep mom happy, how do you transition from, being a kid to your teenager years?
So we went to church until we all got jobs, little jobs here and there, and started off doing lawn jobs. And then I think I worked at a Dairy Queen for a while and things like that. But once we started working, then we stopped going to church.
I see. So from the point you stopped going to church to when you really realized you needed God, how long was that gap?
That was a very long gap. So that would be from my teenage years until about 1989. So I'm not sure how many years that is on it, but that's a long time.
It is a long time. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that time. That time from a teenager to 1989. What are some things you'd like to share about that time period?
So my teenage years were kind of during the hip drug days, and so everybody had long hair and a lot of drugs and stuff going around at school, like in high school and everything. So even a few of my good friends actually died from overdosing on drugs and everything.
Wow. How did that affect you growing up?
Well, I had a guy that sat right in front of me, and he was in an algebra class with me, and he was extremely smart, and he always wore his long sleeve shirt. He never was out without it because he was hiding his track marks there by not having them uncovered during school time.
So during this time, did you find yourself getting caught up in a little bit of this here and there?
So I was always kind of the clean kid. They kind of had the hippies, and then there were the jocks, and then there were the cowboys, I guess, and a lot of other groups that kind of hung together. And I wasn't kind of in part of those, so I stayed away from the drugs because I always kind of wanted to become a dentist, and I didn't know how to do it, but I wanted to at least make it that way.
Okay, so for those you don't know, Dr. Dave is a recently retired dentist, but we'll get there. That's a little later into the story here. So you're growing up with your friends, your teenage years, you're getting into your early 20s. And how's life for you in your early 20s?
So I partied a lot. I was basically, alcohol was my drug. And so I always consider alcohol a drug because it is a kind of mood altering substance that you put into your body. So I don't like it when they say alcohol and drugs because they really are one and the same.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit, maybe a couple of stories about those days where, alcohol maybe got the better of you?
Yeah, so I remember we were in high school, and really good friend of mine, his sister bought us a case of I can't say the name of it, but we'll just say malt liquor on the thing, tall cans of malt liquor. We all had a 6-pack, and we went to the football game, and I remember getting there and getting totally wasted on 2 cans of malt liquor, and it was something where I was practically falling off the bleachers and everything because I was having such a good time. And so I went that route for probably, I would say, most of my life until I actually got really serious about school and everything. So I was into the partying scene. I just didn't do other drugs and everything, and there was a lot of it around.
So I know personally that you have a love for woodworking. Does your woodworking play into your earlier years, or was that part of your later years in life?
So I did woodworking all through high school. I liked it. I actually since junior high, and it was just one of my hobbies that I was really good at. I came from a family. My grandfather was a Finnish carpenter, and my dad worked in the construction business, and so I was always around wood and any type of construction and things. I picked up little things here and there, but I did like woodworking a lot.
So we're painting this picture of you. You know, you're young, you're a little bit out of control. You're a teenager going into those early 20s. I love the story about the certain movie that you were in. Can you tell us a little bit about that time in your life?
Are we allowed to say that one on the air there?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's okay.
Okay. Well, I was working at a bar. I was a professional bartender for a while. And one of the bars that I worked at, they were filming the movie Stir Crazy here in Tucson. And so I was part of an extra with quite a few other people that worked in and around there. And during the day, we sat around and played cards, usually poker. And then toward the evening, then we would go back to work. Once they called us to be extras, then we got to be extras in the movie. So it was fun. He didn't really do anything. It was about 3 seconds worth of filming there total that showed up on the big screen, but we were, filming, it seemed like for all afternoon just to get that 3 little seconds inside there.
Did you get to meet Gene Wilder or Richard Pryor?
Gene Wilder, we got to see him from a distance. He won't touch you. He's very kind of a germaphobe. And Richard Pryor, on the other hand, was completely different because he was a wild man at the time. And so we had one of the guys, the bartenders I worked with, was kind of watching the back door so people wouldn't come in and going out, and I was trying to come in, and he's playing around with me, didn't want me to get in the door, so we were boxing back and forth. And right about that time, Richard Pryor comes walking out the back door. He goes, "Move out of the way. Let me take on this honky." And so he starts boxing with me, so that's my claim to fame, is I got to box with Richard Pryor. But he had his bodyguard standing right next to him with these mean eyes saying that if you hit him, I will kill you, type of thing. So no punches were really thrown near faces or anything like that.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
So at what point from being a professional bartender did you decide, okay, I want to take going to school to be a dentist seriously?
So I always worked. So I started off in high school working gas stations. Back then they were called service stations, and we actually washed windows and checked tires and did stuff like that. So that's where I kind of got into cars, and I liked automotive and everything also. But I did different jobs throughout all my career when I was going to school. So I would work part-time and go to school part-time. So I went to the University of Arizona, but I would only take, like, say, 13 credit hours a semester. And I was very fortunate in that my mother worked there in the physics department, so I was actually able to go to school quite cheaply. And so I could afford to work part-time and do that. But basically, I just played around and wanted to party and wanted to go to school at the same time. And then around probably 1979, all my friends were, I guess it would probably be earlier than that, maybe 76, they were starting to get out and actually graduate, and I was still hanging back because I wasn't getting enough credit hours to do it. So I finally got into the mode where I felt like I need to get somewhere and get a degree and then try to apply and see if I could get into dental school.
So at what point did you finally crack the books, get the degree, and then transition into dental school?
So I have a Bachelor of Science in General Biology that I got in 1979, but I applied to dental school for about 2 years after that because I didn't get in the first time I applied. And it just so happens that my bartending skills are actually what got me back into school. So I had an oral surgeon here in town who's no longer with us, so I don't have to say his name. But anyway, he's said, I need a bartender on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. He was having a big party for the local dentist and other people that he knew and everything, and he needed somebody to bartend the party. And that it must have been God's will that I was bartending. That I wasn't working that time, that I was actually able to bartend for him. But he wrote me a letter of reference essentially to get me into school sight unseen. I didn't have to interview or anything like that. And I ended up going to Loyola University of Chicago, which is no longer there. The school's still there, but the dental school is not there anymore.
So, how many years of dental school did you have to go through to get your degree?
So after I got my degree at the U of A, then you do 4 years of dental school, and then you get out and you can either specialize in something else or you can, be a general dentist. So 4 years in dental school, and then I was a general dentist for 4.5 years before I went back to school to be an endodontist, and that's kind of what I was good at. And God kind of gifted me to be able to do root canals, and I did that for 30 years, and now I'm retired.
All right. So you've pulled quite a few teeth in your time.
Well, I haven't. I've saved quite a few teeth because that's what we do when we do root canals. But I've taken out a few, here, there, and everywhere, and around the world when I get to go on mission trips and everything.
So, what has to be your most unique experience doing a root canal?
My most unique experience was in 2005, and I kind of, by one means or another, got connected with the zoo downtown and at Reed Park, and I did a root canal on a polar bear. And I was one of 4 other people that were working on this polar bear at the time.
So you actually in a room with a full-size polar bear starting to work on one tooth? How many teeth did he have?
We did one canine tooth on her. It was a female. Her name was Kobe. She was 690 pounds. She was a monster.
So how comfortable were you being in that room with that bear?
Well, like I said, there was 4 of other people in there. We had an oral surgeon. We had 2 dentists. One of them was just taking picture because he had a broken leg. And then there was me, and we had the veterinarian who darted the bear, and they brought it in, and we had to carry it off of a golf cart onto a gurney and put it in there. So we were all in the same room together. So if the bear woke up, then you just had to outrun your buddy. That's all it was. And he did one, or I should say she did one time. She kind of snorted one time when she wasn't under it. It scared us all to death.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. It was probably the most unique or crazy root canal that I've ever done. And I would just love to do it again, whether it's an orangutan or an elephant or whatever. It would be really fun to do that a nice time again.
So you had no prior experience working with animals when they called you to do this?
Yeah, but root canals are root canals, so it doesn't matter what it is. I didn't have any idea how long it was or whatever, and so I went down to the zoo, and they have skulls down there. We took some skulls and measured some lengths of roots and everything, so we knew what we were getting into, and then we ended up making some kind of custom instruments that we needed to be able to do something that's that long. Like an average human, it might be, say, 25 millimeters long. These were like 75 millimeters long, so about 3 times as large as what you would normally treat.
And how long did that overall process take to help the bear out?
From when we brought the bear in, when it was sedated, and we got one picture of it, I think it took us a total of 45 minutes to do the whole root canal on it. And that was just one single big root on it, very long root.
Wow. I can't even imagine. I still can't imagine you being in a room with a bear like that.
Yeah. The Zoo Channel, every once in a while, they show some little video that they took of us while we were in there and everything. And I think I might even be interviewed on that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That'd be great to check out.
Yeah.
All right. So you've had that experience doing a root canal on a polar bear. You're a part of a practice, or do you have your own practice at this point?
So I was very fortunate in that I was with my family dentist when I was a general dentist. And then when I went back to school, the guys that helped send me back to school invited me to be part of their practice when I was getting ready to retire. I was hoping to retire. When I was getting ready to get out of school, they said, "Hey, we're looking for another endodontist. We'd, like to have you come and join us if you want to come back to Tucson." Because originally we kind of had an agreement that I wouldn't come back to Tucson to practice because they didn't want me to compete against them. So that was kind of our handshake agreement. But by the time I had graduated 2 years later, then they were really looking for more people because the company was starting to get big. So we started off with 4 of us when I joined. And when I finally retired, I think there was 9 of us still practicing together.
Wow.
out of 4 different offices here in town.
So I'm assuming during the journey of becoming an orthodontist that you came to Christ.
Endodontist, yes.
Endodontist, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I was a general dentist when I came to Christ because my best friend from high school used to live very close to Catalina High School, and he was living there. He was a Tucson Police Department officer. I won't go any further. And he invited me to go to church with him at a little Nazarene church. It was just around the corner from where he lived, and we all kind of grew up in and around that area. He used to go there for like a vacation Bible school, and now he was taking his kids there, so he invited me and my wife to go on Easter, is how I got involved with the Nazarene church.
So was that a life-changing moment that first time out? Or when did I like to say the thunderbolt hit you?
Yeah, so I was going to the church there, and it was a very small church. I mean, I don't think it had, maybe on a good Sunday, they might have 25 people there. And that one family kind of filled up most of the pews. They were a very large family. But I probably was going for, I'm going to guess, a few months. And then they were holding, they didn't have room to hold like Bible studies. So we had a little Bible study over at my house. And so I was still a general dentist at the time, and that's where both my wife and I accepted the Lord on our knees on the coffee table in the front room there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where and how did you get baptized?
So this church, because it was so small, didn't have a baptismal there, but I think it's Central Nazarene Church. The Nazarene has a baptismal, and we went over there. I think it was on a Saturday when nobody was around, and they baptized us over there.
All right, so you're married, you're new to Christ,
right?
And you're part of what is a successful practice.
Mm-hmm.
So, how's your personal walk at that point with the Lord?
Well, at the time, I was a newbie then, so I was brand new. So like I said, before I knew about God, but I never knew God before that. So once I accepted, I remember telling my mom and seeing the joy on her face that I had come to the Lord. And I think it very much surprised her and everything, but I never would have gone there unless my best friend from high school, who we used to go out and get in trouble with and everything like that, who was now a police officer. So now we're going out getting in trouble with a police officer. But anyway, he invited me. And if I hadn't have trusted that, had that friendship, and it's like most people come to church on Easter, right? If you get invited, you go. So that's how I started going. Because at that time that I was married, neither my wife and I really had any inkling that we would be going to church or whatever.
So I've known you for a lot of years, and we do a men's Bible group together, and we've done that for a handful of years. And there's an amazing gift that you have when it comes to the Bible. We'll be having a conversation, and something will be mentioned, and someone might not have the exact verse and quote, or you might find something in the Bible that's relative to what we're talking about, and you find it faster manually going through the pages than someone can just type the words in for a search on Google. Were you always gifted like that? How did that come about? So
I feel like that God has gifted me, and I've known this from the beginning, and that's how I was able to actually get through school, is that I was gifted with an incredible memory. And so I can remember things if I've read it one time or two times. I know that's somewhere, but I don't know what book of the Bible it is. And so the longer that I search and find these things, the more that it ingrains it in my memory. So just reading through the Bible every year, or however often it takes me to get through the Bible, there kind of ingrains these in my memory. So if I do that and I know where it is and I underline it or I highlight it, and eventually those repetitive motions are what sticks it in my brain, and then somebody will bring it up, whatever it's a subject or a verse or whatever, and I'll go, oh yeah, I know where that is. That's, Galatians 6:10 or whatever. And then I can usually find it fairly quickly then.
That's truly amazing. How long did it take for you to get to how we know you to be with that skill set, with that gift?
I would say that's probably happened within probably, I'm going to guess, the last 3 or 4 years and everything, because I didn't have that always. I couldn't always find it. In fact, it used to drive me insane that I couldn't remember. I knew it was in the Bible, but I didn't know where to find it. And I got to be where that was like a challenge to me. Like, I want to know where this is. I want to be able to find it right away. And of course, so the first thing, you got to know where your books of the Bible are. You got to know what comes after what in order to find it.
Amazing, simply amazing. For any of you out there that ever gets to meet Dr. Dave or gets to be a part of a small group with him, you will witness this, and it's truly amazing. He can literally recall and find something faster than you can search it on the web. So, Dave, you're growing in your walk, and I know you have a heart for missions. When did that start to come? When did God put that on your heart? And what was the first missions trip that you actually went on?
Okay, so I was going to Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene since 1993, and we've gone through a few pastors since then, but mainly with Pastor Craig, who's there personally. But there's a local doctor, Joel Monsiváis, who had gone to Bolivia, and we used to have Sunday night services where we would have a missionary come in and they would show slides and then talk about the trip they've been on and everything. And I was sitting in on a Sunday night watching slides, and Joel was showing pictures of kids that he'd seen and things, and they showed a picture of a kid with an abscessed tooth, and it just, God put it on my heart right then, said, oh my gosh, if you had been there, you could have taken care of that kid with the abscessed tooth, because what they did was to try to get him out of pain and to, drain this abscess and everything, but it was going to come back again. And right after that, that was it. The Holy Spirit had a hold of me and said, next time you go to Bolivia with Joel next year, and you'll do that. And that's how I started, and that was in 2004.
So 2004, you start going on these mission trips. How many mission trips do you think you've been on since then?
So I keep track of the countries I've been, but not necessarily all the trips I've been on. So I started going on mission trips initially, just going down to Mexico with the church when we would go down and work on, churches and pour concrete or do whatever we had to do. Then in 2004 is when I started actually going out and doing dentistry, figuring out how to do that one. I would say that I've been to 25 different churches, different countries, but I've probably been on 30 or 35 different mission trips, because I've been to India 8 times. I've been to Bolivia 4 times. And quite a few other places I've been quite a few times also. It's funny, as many times as I've been to Mexico, I've only done dentistry twice in Mexico, and that was with Flying Samaritans, flying over to Baja Peninsula there on the Pacific side and doing dentistry at a clinic there, at a little town called El Rosario.
You and I have been on a couple of trips together, but I've never been able to witness any dental work. I would love to be your assistant, if that's possible. We get on a trip like that together. We mostly do construction work together.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're going on one shortly here, June 10th. We're going to be going to Alaska. You want to talk a little bit about that latest trip you're going to go on?
So this Alaska trip will be the 4th time I've been to Alaska. So I don't actually consider, Alaska kind of is its own country in itself because it's so big, but I don't consider that one of my countries that I've gone to. But I've been there 4 times, and we've got to work on this summer campground, I guess you could call it, and we've done different construction projects, and I've seen the Holy Spirit work on projects like that, just, using other skills that I have that I wouldn't normally use in my everyday life, but things that I picked up in construction, along the way, working with my dad and things.
So I know you've shared with me some pretty harsh mission stories and a couple of funny ones, one particularly with Craig. I would love for you to first, why don't you talk about your experience in China?
In China. So I only got to go to China one time. We started off going to Beijing, and then a fairly large city called Kunming. And then we went down to this little tiny area called Jinghong City. But in between, I left the group and I stayed in it's like a high school for kids that were developmentally disabled, or they were missing a limb, or they were blind, or something. And the lady that ran the clinic there had her own dental clinic. She was from Singapore. Her husband was from Idaho. So we got along fabulous. It was great. And so they just brought me in and had me do a bunch of root canals for about a bunch of weeks. And then we were teaching some of their assistants there how to do different dentistry and things, and they would just kind of watch. And they would, after 2 or 3 years of watching a dentist work, if they could pass a test, then they became dentists themselves. Is how it worked there in China where we were. And that was in Kunming where we were.
So was it on that trip where you saw the children in the field, or that one little girl in the field where basically the Chinese people, if their children are defective, they just literally dump them to die? Right.
So the orphanage we went down to, Jinghong City, which is kind of near Vietnam. It's kind of across the river from Vietnam. All those kids there they had something wrong with them, and they'd been abandoned. And so they were in this orphanage, and we went down there and helped take care of the kids. And they were actually laying tile while I was gone for a week. So they made me grout tile when I got there out in the heat of the sun. But this little girl, her name was, can I say that?
Yeah.
Well, her name was Mei Mei. But anyway, she was just like, of course, she only spoke, Chinese to us, but she was just full of vim and vigor and everything. But she had a heart defect. And so when they found out being a female in a country like that where they only want a male heir, then she was left out in a cornfield to die. And so somehow somebody found her or whatever, and they took her to this orphanage. So she was there, and she later got adopted. I think the year after we left one time, there was one little girl there that had very poor respiratory means and everything. And when she breathed, you could hear her breathe every single breath. And I think she died a week or two after we left the country and everything. So it was really sad.
So when you come back from a trip like that, how does that affect you? How heavy is that on your heart?
Well, you do the best you can with the means you have, whatever you have, and try to do the best work you can, whether you're doing dentistry or whatever you happen to be doing. But it always affects you because you remember the stories, and then you come back to the United States in this land of plenty that we have, and you realize all the rest of the world does not have these opportunities that we have here as the United States, and you feel very privileged and blessed to have what you have, whether it's health care or, being able to go to a dentist or be able to go down to the, local pharmacy and get some drugs because you have a cold or whatever like that. And these people don't even have those opportunities at all. So it makes what you go and do that much more worthwhile to do. And it is hard to go and do mission trips and take all your stuff and try to do what you can do. And it's something always goes wrong. That's just typical of a mission trip, but you always look forward to that. And then when it happens, it doesn't bother you.
So you mentioned you went back to certain countries repeatedly. Now, did you go to the same areas? Did you go and see people that you first took care of or helped out? Did they remember you?
Yeah, so the place that I've been the most has been India. And so this is kind of northwest part of India, kind of up near the Nepal border. There's a large town there called Dehradun. And near Dehradun is this little I don't know if it's a subdivision or whatever, and it calls Haridwar is the name of the little town. And there's a children's home there, and there's 35 to 40 kids that live there. And most of these kids, their parents have leprosy. And so the leader of this group, his name's Michael, takes them out of the leper colony, and they get to go to school, and they get 2 meals a day. And so I got to take care of these kids there for 7 years in a row until COVID hit. And then I missed a couple of years there where we couldn't go back. And right now, I've only been back in 2023, I guess it was. And right now they're kind of anti-Christian, and they won't let us come into the country and do dentistry, even though I'm going to help out these kids. But there's 30 to 35 kids there that I've got to take care of and watch them grow up from little 2, 3, 4-year-olds. And now a lot of them have graduated from university, and they have degrees in nursing and things, and they're out helping their own people and being able to help themselves, because otherwise they'd be, begging on the streets for money and everything.
That's amazing. I do definitely want to get back to the Craig story, but can you tell us a little bit about your trips that you take to the Utah area?
Oh, to the Utah area, yeah. So one of the places I go with Joyce Meyer Ministry, and she has just little medical dental missions that go out all over the world. So a lot of places I've been, like to Africa and things like that, I've been with Joyce Meyer. But this particular one is kind of northern Arizona, Colorado City, Hilldale, Utah, which was a former cult kind of run by a man named Warren Jeffs, who I think is still in prison right now. But that whole area is suppressed, and there's almost like an evil influence in and around that area because of all these people that were involved in the cult, and they had multiple, children and things like that. And basically, they're one of 4 or 5 different wives that have 5 or 6 kids, and they never leave the cult because they're afraid they'll take away their children. And so sometimes they come in the night and they just put a bag over their head and they just take them away, and the men especially will never see their kids again, or they'll get ostracized from the church and they're kicked out and they don't know what to do after that. It's a very, very strange area to be in.
So when you go out there to do dentistry, how do the children and the adults, how are they with you? Are they timid? Are they happy to have you there?
Well, they're the mothers especially are very appreciative just to have any work done. So we go out there and do dentistry on them, whatever fillings, and whether it's an extraction or cleanings or whatever. And we treat them. We're usually there for like 3 or 4 days of actual clinic time that we spend. But when I first got there, the very first time I went, and I've been to this place 3 times, I think, also maybe 4, but at least 3 times, the kids had no joy, because while this cult leader was in prison like that, he took away all their bicycles and all their toys. They weren't allowed to have fun, and took down their basketball hoops, and they weren't allowed to do anything. So they're very reserved, and they wouldn't ever laugh. And I think the last time I went there, we actually had a family that was actually playing around and having some fun, but otherwise they don't have any joy at all. So it's very strange. It's like you're treating little zombies. I remember a little girl sitting across waiting to be treated, and she just looked at me, and her hair was all disheveled. And I talked to her sister, and I asked her, I said, "Is that your sister over there?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "How many do you have?" She says, "I have 9 brothers and sisters." But I wasn't allowed to ask how many mommies she had also. But she told me that they lived out in a desert in an RV that didn't have any running water or electricity or anything, and that's why the little girl looked the way she did.
And that's in today's day and age.
That's in 2024 when that happened. That was just, it amazes that something like that can happen in United States of America with all the resources that we have, and things like this can go on, and it continues.
Yeah, it is sad. My heart goes out to those people. Pray for them all the time. So you have shared in the past some of the insane numbers of people you've seen and helped on these trips with dentistry. What was one of the craziest numbers of how many people you helped and either did dental work, root canals?
Right. So I've only done, believe it or not, I've only done a few root canals in different countries and everything like that, because that's something that's time preventive from doing it. I've gone to places where we've taken out teeth all day long. Like I was in Swaziland, which is now called Eswatini, I guess. And I worked in Swaziland out in the sticks somewhere. It was at a school, I remember, and our whole playground was filled with all the patients that needed to be seen. And it's a large group called the Luke Commission, TLC, and they saw them for just about everything. They were doing all sorts of medical and stuff, but then we had dental along the side. But I worked all day long there from probably about 11 o'clock in the morning by the time we got there until about 9:30 at night, where I just took out one tooth after another tooth after another tooth. And I finally at 9:30 had to quit. I was just exhausted. I couldn't take it,
How many days of that did you do in a row?
On that particular area, I only did that one day.
That
one day. For the trip that we were there, we were in probably 4 or 5 different locations where we went and essentially did the same thing in different areas. But that was the one that I always remember and I have no idea how many teeth we took out that day. But I've been on groups where it's like, say I'm with Joyce Meyer Ministry and there might be 2 or 3 dentists, well, we might take out, probably see, I'm going to guess, like 100 plus patients in 3 or 4 days like that. And that's not unusual at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get back to this story about you and Craig, and I'll let you set the table for it and tell the story about it.
You got to tell me which one we're talking about.
All right. You were in a vehicle, you were kind of lost, you were going to get a place to eat. I don't want to give away too many details, but it's a very funny story.
So there was 4 of us, and we were going to go to like an open air market area that had like we would go to like a truck there and go get a Sonoran dog or whatever. It was a large place like that, and we were going there to eat. But
What country are you in?
so, oh yeah, I'm sorry. So we're in India at the time, and we are actually in. Let's see, where would we have been? We would have been in New Delhi at the time, because we were on our way back. So we were coming back, and so we knew that this place was there. We got in one of those little tuk-tuk. They're like a little 3-wheeled taxi essentially, and the other two guys jumped in another one, and they just took off. And so we didn't know where they were going. So we told the guy, this is where we need to go. And so we got in there. And the next thing I know, he's going up on this overpass and this little thing that will barely climb the overpass in the middle of traffic. And Pastor Craig is just freaking out because he thinks we're going to die up there or whatever. And so we're going really fast. And I have a video of this on my phone and everything. And we're just barely crawling to get to the top. And it's like a roller coaster. And then you're zooming way down there. So we get to the area where we were. We walked the full length of this place. It was kind of gated. And then it had all these little shops and little places you could eat and stuff like that along the way. And we kept walking and walking, and we never found the guys that we were supposed to, meet up with. So we just stopped and we ate some dinner. Then we came back out and we decided, I think he didn't want to get back in one of those tuk-tuks. So he decided we were going to walk back, which is only about a mile. It wasn't very far, but it was like we were walking on this highway there on the side. And it's like there was a sidewalk, and then there wasn't a sidewalk, and then it would drop off 1.5 feet and bumping your head on trees. And we get back, and one of the ladies at the Airbnb we were staying at, she goes, "Oh, you're the lost ones." I go, "We're not lost. We're right here." They go, "Yeah, they're looking all over for you." So we'd been gone this whole evening, and they were looking for us the whole time, thought that we got rolled or were laying in a gutter dying or something like that. And they were just furious that we didn't like turn our phone on and at least try to call them or make a phone call. We didn't really have service at the time, but would have been something, I guess.
Yeah, that would have been something.
Yeah, just to let everybody know where we were, and we had the time of our lives. It was fun.
So you give me the okay to share how I like to say how we first met, the story of how we first met?
Yeah, as long as I get to add my little 2 cents worth in.
Absolutely, absolutely. The first time I really met and got to know Dr. Dave was in a unique set of circumstances. We were in Alaska, and we were in the cabins, and they had community shower stalls for us to go clean up in. So I had gone into a shower stall, and I was getting ready to take a shower, and all of a sudden I'm hearing some harmonica playing and a little bit of singing going on too at the same time. So I just kind of shouted out, "Hey, do you know any Cheech and Chong?" And he started to play some Cheech and Chong, and it just cracked me up. So I couldn't wait till we were both out of the shower so we could talk and introduce one another. But every time we're around people, I always tell people, "Hey, I met Dr. Dave in the men's shower," and he gets a little uncomfortable about that part of the story. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I was in the shower. There's 7 shower stalls in a row with all, with their own curtains and walls and everything. So it's not like you can see who's next to you or whatever. So I was just in there singing in the shower because the guy that runs the campground, his apartment or whatever you want to say, his living quarters is directly above the shower. So when we're in there singing, they can hear us making all sorts of noise down there. And so I was singing something or other, whatever, when Sal came in and got in the shower next to me, because we're all waiting in line to, take a shower, get cleaned up so we can go have dinner and enjoy it for the night. But we were singing different songs that we knew in there. So that memory comes back in where I can remember the lyrics to a lot of songs, whether it's, Johnny Cash or Cheech and Chong or whatever it was.
But it was hilarious, and it started one of my most cherished relationships that I have since coming to Oro Valley Church of Nazarene is meeting you and getting to do life with you. I'm humbled by it. I'm honored that God put us together, and I love that we get to continue to do this together.
Yeah. We're going to be doing it again here in another week or so. We'll be headed out and going back to the same area. Of course, we won't be in the same shower. We'll be someplace else this time, but we'll be building some other cabin or whatever.
Oh, come on. We have to have part 2. You don't want to share a shower with me now?
Yeah, I'll be in the opposing shower singing another tune there for you, I'm sure. Usually we get yelled at by the camp host. His wife will yell down, "I can hear you down there."
Yeah, that's Joey. Great. John and Joey, they're the camp directors at Camp Maranatha, where we're going for the 5th time.
Is it the 5th time?
I believe so. I think it's going to be the 5th time now. 5th or 4th time.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. It's 4 or 5.
They're wonderful people, and we just love going up there. And anyone who has the chance to do a missions trip in general and go into Alaska, you really, it's a unique experience. What was your first experience there when you got to the camp and had that quiet time with the Lord?
I would say just the awesomeness of the territory, because Alaska is so unique compared to all of the rest of the United States. And I've seen a lot of the United States, but Alaska is very unique. Just to see creation in itself and to be able to work in it, and then it just happening right around you there, and then to be able to, go have dinner and then go out, and it's still daylight until 11:30 at night, and you can go out and go fishing on the lake, and the lake is right there in the camp. And so we would go out and go fishing, or you just get out on that, canoe or whatever you're paddling out there with, and go out there by yourself and just let the wind blow you across the lake a little bit like that. Just spend a little time with God and everything. I think my favorite time was, 2 or 3 times ago when we were building the dining hall and putting the roof on it, on something that was all week long was just going wrong. It was never going to get done. And suddenly on the last day before we had to leave, then God brought the right person and put it all together. And then we rolled all those trusses there in one afternoon and finished off about 3:30. And it was just impossible that 12, 14 people could do that in an afternoon. But it was just God's work and the Holy Spirit working throughout us that allowed us to get in there and get something done that was just impossible.
That was an amazing and overwhelming project. These trusses were A-frame trusses that were 54 feet long, and we needed a crane to pick them up and bring them overhead to set them in place. And we were a team of 12, and of the 12, there were 2 people, myself and Hugh, who were general contractors at one point in time, maybe another 2 or 3 people that had a fair amount of skill set, but then the rest had never done anything like it in their entire lives. And this was not only an extremely dangerous project, but it was a highly involved project, and God guided that whole thing.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was just awesome. They let me saw the wood, though. The dentist got to let the dentist saw the wood.
Cut the wood, huh? So, Dr. David, all these incredible things that you have done and experienced in your life, what are some of the things that you like to do for fun? What do you like to do to kind of just, decompress?
I like to go up in the center of the state at Roosevelt Lake. I like to go up and bass fish. Sometimes I like to just get out there and get away from everybody. And sometimes I'll, take my brothers or friends and we'll go out and do some fishing. I enjoy hiking still. I haven't been into it much since I retired. I've been too busy, it seems like. But I like to do projects around the house and everything also. Sometimes just working by myself around the house, doing things that are projects that I've started but never got finished. It's very worthwhile to me to get something done and then to move on, cross that off the list and move on to something else.
So I know you're a Jeep guy. Can you tell me a little bit about that Jeep culture? Are you a part of that Jeep culture?
Yeah, I'm really not in everything. I like Jeeps because they're fun. I had a 55 Willys that I built up from the bottom, and then I ended up selling it. But it was the project of just building it, making it work, and everything was kind of fun. The one I drive currently is not really fixed up like the guys that take it out. There's a few guys like Ken who take it out, and they like to go out and tear it up in the wild. I like to have something that's going to, get me back to civilization if I go up there on it. And mine's not really set up to do all that fancy, Jeep stuff. But it is fun to go out there and 4-wheel drive around and play around on the hills and everything. Just try not to kill yourself at home.
Yeah, we don't want anything bad happening to you. So what is the scripture in the Bible that you most relate to?
That I most relate to is, I think I said it earlier, didn't I? I like Galatians 6:10. So then as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those of the household of faith. That's the Revised Standard Version of that. But that's the way I learned it originally. And it's because for me, I feel like that God has given me this gift to go out there, and I need to take those gifts and talents that he's given me and go out and use them to do something for his kingdom, to help people that don't have, the ability to see a dentist and have never seen a dentist before. And you can actually change their quality of life just by getting like infected teeth out of their mouth or fixing up a smile. And I can tell you a story of a young girl, because she's graduated now, so she's no longer young. But when I first saw her, she was 16 years old and she had a broken front tooth. And so she would never smile. She would never let anybody see those beautiful teeth. And she's slightly dark complected for being of Indian descent. And she had these beautiful white teeth, and they were just fantastic. So the first time I saw her, she says, they call you uncle. And they said, "Uncle, can you fix this?" And I mixed up some white composite that I had that we put together, kind of like epoxy glue. And I showed her, I said, "This is what it'll look like." And she says, "I'll wait." So she waited a full year. And then the following year I came back and I brought some nice fancy light cured composite material, and we were able to bond it together and make her smile again. And now when she smiles, you see those big, bright, white, shiny teeth, and it just changed her whole world. And she's one of those that have graduated from the nursing program and is now out working in the world.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what book or verse would you recommend to a new believer coming to Christ to read in the Bible for the first time?
So I always, and I've been told this from other people, that you always read the book of John, that John gives you a kind of complete picture of Jesus and his ministry and what the Bible is all about there. And then you read that because it's relatively easy reading, and you get any version, whether it's an amplified version that explains it better or whatever, so that you're reading something that you can understand. And once you start to understand it, you'll get that thirst for more and more, and you'll go to different books, and then you can go to the other Gospels and compare those to what John said, and you can find different, parts of Scripture there that kind of tie in together. And then pretty soon you'll eventually realize that the whole Old Testament ties into the New Testament, and then in different references go back and forth, and you can realize like, oh, wow, this is prophecy and this is fulfilled here. And then it gets to be more and more exciting. And I think once you get into that and you realize that you're reading God's word and then he's talking to you through that word, you can read the same verse 2-3 years later, it'll mean something totally different to you because it's living and active, and it's just alive depending on what your situation is right now, where your walk is with the Lord at the time.
So in recommending the book of John, what reflection do you personally get out of John? What do you think John is trying to share with everyone?
I think John is trying to basically tell Jesus' story as a disciple that was there and walked with him for 3.5 years. And basically there's so many things that he could tell in the book of John, but he knows he can't tell them all. So he's going to tell the ones that are most significant of what Jesus's time on earth was all about, and that he was the Son of God, and that he really did come down to save us all from our sins, and that we're all sinners and we can't make it without him.
Thank you for sharing that. So as our time is coming to the end here, where do you see Dr. Dave in the next couple of years? What do you think he's going to be doing?
I think I'm going to still do mission trips as long as I can. Not as many as I did the last couple of years since I retired, but I'll still do mission trips. But I'm not sure I'll be able to do it forever, just because they kind of tend to wear me out now as I get a little bit older and everything. It's just harder to go out and to do those long trips, and when you travel to India, it takes you more than 24 hours to get there sometimes. And so different ones wear you out. So I tend to, look at the trips where I could be most beneficial and everything, and maybe not be there for 2 weeks or whatever. Maybe I could be there for 8 or 10 days and still work 4 or 5 days and help a lot of people out, and then come back and see what God's, doing in different countries. I like to do as many countries as I can, but I just know that my time is limited as far as how many trips I'll still be able to do, and in the time I have left here on this earth until God calls me home.
Will you still be the infamous cookie baker? Because you do make some amazing cookies.
We're not going to talk about those cookies, are we?
Yes, we are.
So I like to make chocolate chip cookies. I've been making them since I was 10 or 12 years old, and there's a recipe that my mom and I kind of made, and I've kind of varied it over the years. And then I switched to oatmeal raisins, and I make some raisin cookies that are really good. And then just lately, I've kind of got into the brookies, where they're half brownie and half cookie at the bottom. And So that's the latest thing that I've been into. But I really like to make cookies, and so usually I'll bring them to men's group. If you want to come to men's group, we'll let you have some of them. Sometimes when we go on mission trips, though, it's kind of a prerequisite that I have to make cookies, bring them in a Ziploc bag for everybody to eat when we're on our, sitting around in the airport waiting for our flight to get on or something like that.
Yeah, those are a real treat. The brookies that he's referring to, the first time he brought them, we have a Thursday night men's group where guys get together and we read the Bible and we just have a conversation and we ask questions and people learn and grow from that. Also, the number one thing from that group is that it's a fellowship. It's a friendship of men of God growing together and doing life together. He brought these brookies in, and I generally cook dinner for the guys before we start. And the minute they saw that pan of brownie chocolate chip cookie combo, they forgot about dinner and they ate the whole pan of brookies up before they even touched any of the dinner. That was just amazing. I would say that that first try was a success.
Yeah, I got to make a comeback and make them a little bit better next time. Although they were hot when I brought them in the pan.
That was pretty cool. Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming on to Keeping It Real with Reverend Sally G and sharing a little bit of your life story and your walk with God. I just wish you nothing but the best, and I would love for you to come back on another time and share some more stories. Would you be up to doing that?
I think I could do that. We'll see if we can maybe bring some slides or bring some pictures to go along with them.
That'd be great. I don't know when this particular podcast is going to air, but when Dr. Dave and myself go to Alaska on the 10th, we're going to do some live broadcasting for Live the Dream Media and Your Digital Revival. So that's going to be pretty cool what we're going to do there.
Okay.
So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks for checking out Keeping It Real with Reverend Sally G. Make sure to follow us on all the different platforms for more great content.